those of you who kind of reacted to my questions about business models being important for channels and being important for understanding the architecture of the business, the operations, help you understand the marketplace, all the answers to all that is yes. You know, they're important to all that stuff. Business models, when they get to being sort of representative of the successful business, that's a post hoc thing, right? That happens after you figured it out, not before you figured it out. So part of the job of entrepreneurism is to iterate through and figure out what business model you need to build your business. So we're trying to open the scope and open minds here about business modeling and how it works. Does this page look familiar to people? The sort of background, okay, you know what this is. This is the business model canvas, okay? And it has come through books like this. The business model canvas, I would throw a caution out about it, having done business modeling for a lot of years and for a lot of different reasons. Business model canvas is business 101 for people who've graduated from MBA school and are now starting to implement what they're doing in the real world. Okay? The more important business model is your P&L and balance sheet. Okay? That's the graduate, this is the graduate course in business modeling, right? Understanding the P&L and the balance sheet, that's important because that's the real life set of transactions that wind up reporting back to you on how well you know what you think you know. Okay, I'm not going to do P&L and balance sheet. Okay, I'm going to come at this from another point of view, but I want your awareness as a consequence of this to be raised to the point where we're thinking a whole lot more about P&L and balance sheet projections, those kinds of things, than we are thinking about business model canvas, because that's scopy and fuzzy and that kind of thing. So the bottom line on a business model is when it's perfected, when you've sort of thought through how it works, and particularly for an entrepreneur entering a crowded marketplace. Do any of you feel like that is a picture of who you are and what you're trying to do? Are you an entrepreneur entering a crowded marketplace? Yes, yes. I see you thinking about it in the back row. Don't think of it as specific to your subset. You're talking about fundamental apartments, right? That's a very, very crowded market. You need to think about it at that scope, not the very narrow scope. So if you're entering a crowded marketplace and you need to find a success model, understanding the business model, working with the business model can actually create barriers to competition. It can create barriers that make it difficult for large incumbent companies to compete with you. One of the things that you'll get asked quite frequently is, can somebody do what you're doing? Can they copy you? Can they do these kinds of things? Those are always very hard questions to answer. The truth of the matter is, if you've perfected a business model and what you're doing, it's very hard for even an incumbent to compete with you because you understand the variances in your model better than they do, and it would take them years to be able to figure out what you figured out. So really working on a business model is really helpful, really. So this is sort of Clay Christensen's chart that begins to explain the differences between new entrant business models and incumbent business models. And I think the thing to grasp from a chart like this, that this chart, how many people look at this and are confused by what this chart is trying to do, right? It's kind of, Clay Christensen's an MBA business professor from Harvard who developed this thinking. Fundamentally, what he's trying to tell you is that incumbent businesses spend a lot of time and a lot of money trying to make incremental improvements. Okay? So what you're doing is you're competing in the innovation space, and you're trying to come at it with fundamentally a better mousetrap. and you're competing against incumbents who've been there for a long period of time, the reason they've been there and been successful is because they've gotten successful at satisfying more and more and more needs on the part of their target customer. So what they constantly look to do is make more money on the next innovation than they made on the last one. Okay, so that pushes them toward perfecting the product and cost reducing it. The more they do that, the more stress it actually puts on the customer, because customers don't get as sophisticated ever to the degree that businesses can perfect their products. So the more they make it sophisticated, the more they create opportunities for us, because we're the great simplifier. Okay? And so the thing that you need to think about as you develop your business approach is, how do you maximize the simplification that you created? Let me do a pause and ask if that makes sense. To protect the simplification, right? Because I see heads nodding, because you're like, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I see. This is what I'm trying to do with my innovation. You're trying to hit the sweet spot in the market and take advantage of the space that's been given to you by incumbents who have gotten way more sophisticated than the consumer actually needs. Okay? So there is a way to do that, and that's what this session is about. There's a way, yes?
That performance line that consumers can actually use, is everything above that line that sort of waste?
Yes. Yes. He's talking about this space right here.
Yes.
Right? That's the gap that increases over time as the incumbent company continues to perfect what they do. And that creates an enormous space here, which the creative, progressive entrepreneurs in the audience see and have the opportunity to take advantage of. And the question is, how do you do that? How do you get sort of feedback from customers? How do you know that you're doing the right thing? How do you know that you're talking to the customer that's actually interested in that simplification? Because there are lots of customers who think they want this, right? Because that's what gets marketed to them. That's what they get told, so they think they want that. There are customers down here who are not getting served. These are your targets, okay? And the few people who raised their hands as early adopters, right, remember? Raise your hand if on 2 or 3 of those things I caught your attention. These are the people who are sensitive to that difference, because these are the people who gravitate to new things because they're dissatisfied with what's going on. Okay? You make sense? Okay, good. So, my argument to you, the thing I want to pass on, the thing I want to teach this morning, is the job to be done. Are you familiar with hearing this idea of the job to be done? Okay, the job to be done, developed by Clay Christensen. It fundamentally asks what the customers actually want, what the consumers actually want. And the argument is they're actually hiring a product to do a job. Okay, and the reason he's using the word job is because job is multidimensional. It's not just functional, right? And that's the important thing for us as entrepreneurs to get, because that's what's making you uncomfortable in your gut. The job is more than features and functions. It has 2 other dimensions, and we're going to talk about those other dimensions.